Hi guys! Today I wanted to go over something, a question I'm asked often, so I thought this would be a fun topic. Basically the question goes as follows. Why is manifesting specific people so easy for some and not for others? And the answer is the simplest thing ever. It boils down to your beliefs. Your beliefs and your beliefs alone, that's it. That's it. So a lot of times what people don't understand is that although your body is here for interaction and it is to be lived in 3D, a lot of times what we have to really get behind is that no one shows up in our reality without us somehow being attached to it. Meaning we either hold this belief in hand or we hold this belief and this belief and this belief, and so then other people show up as proof of our own belief system. And that's all it is. So a lot of times, I was actually talking to a great friend this morning, and she actually said, I encountered a guy before that, he had a really strong self-concept, because even I was under his spell, and I used to think he was some kind of devil, but now I realize, and this is real growth, you guys, she said, now I realize that he was here to show me what a good self-concept looks like. And that's the difference. A good self-concept is unstoppable. This person that has this type of self-concept walks in a room, smiles at everything, and owns the room, because in every instant they're looking at themselves in a really cool way. Not themselves like, just this body. You're looking at every single body as your thought forms made real. And it's quite miraculous. But to not know this is how we get trapped in these situations. But a lot of times when someone comes to me for coaching or help me figure out this or help me figure out that, at the end of the day, the only thing I really need to listen to is your story. Your story will tell me everything that you're dealing with. And see, the difference is you've cemented this story in. And so it has become your reality because you've accepted it. See, thoughts are floating around all the time. And you're like this little antenna that picks it up. And once you decide you've picked it up, you've decided to view it. So when you decide to view it, you're viewing it. And now what you do in your next moment seals in the deal, makes the coffin real, okay? What you do in the next moment has to do with cementing in what you're seeing with your words. When we do that, we will notice that the reality seems to set in. And now you're in this little prison and you're trying to get out. Well, at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is that the only thing going on is your story. Your story, that's it. And so you can come in and out of states. But at the end of the day, the reason it's so easy for some people is because they've understood this concept, that their story is responsible for the way that they see everything in their lives. I can't say that enough. So a lot of times, one of the things that I recommend is self-inquiry. And a lot of people are like, why should I self-inquiry? I want something out there. Sin? I want out there. I want something out there. Why should I sit there trying to question what it is that I'm thinking? Well, hello, what it is that you're thinking is responsible for what is outside. And if you don't become aware of what it is that you think, how you think, and what you are perceiving, and each label that you give every human being outside, then you're not aware that your consciousness is on display now, do you? Right? And so then everything that you are thinking about an individual, that is how they will play out. And that's why it's easier for some, because some have woken up to that. They're no longer asleep, and so they're no longer in this reality where this person seems to have a life of their own. Okay? Because they don't. They don't. We all did it. We all played autopilot. We all played in the dream. We all thought it was real. We were all convinced. It's no different. Waking life is no different from the dream. You know, when you're in the dream, you have no idea that you're in a dream, and so you think you're actually there in the moment. Waking life is exactly like that. There is no difference between one or the other. You're just waking up from one dream state to another. But if you understand that, then you understand two things. One, everyone is innocent and everyone's playing out on autopilot. And I, myself included, have played on autopilot. We all do. And so here's the thing. At some point, one of us has to wake up. And there is only one of us in the equation at a time. Okay? And as soon as we do, everyone else will reflect outside of us what we are. So the most important thing you can ever do is get your self-concept correct. Okay? And a lot of times, if you come to me for coaching, it will sound something like this, all right? It will sound something like, Sin, I'm having trouble with commitment issues. I don't know what it is. It's like, these guys won't commit. Well, hello, you've just declared that into being, and that's been your reality, probably because that's what you've experienced once or twice. But once you attach to it, you made that real, so then that becomes the existing pattern from which all other interactions will take place. But you are the source of it, and unless you realize your first cause, you're going to continue on this trajectory, right? So we want to avoid these things. But foremost and most important thing you can ever do is get really focused, I would say, on what that self-concept is. What is it that you're thinking? You know, and if at any point you're confused, take advantage of the look backwards. Take advantage of the look backwards. Hear my words. Take advantage of the look backwards. This means go back through your mental Rolodex, go back through memory lane, identify patterns, and there you will find your concept. In other words, if you've always had trouble with men cheating, then you hold the belief that men will cheat. And so whether you want to hold that belief or not, there is an underlying amount of experience that in your past that this is what is, and so this is what you expect secretly. So now you've discovered what your pattern is. Okay? It doesn't have to be men cheating. I just gave an example. It could be all men will eventually hurt you. Men can abandon you. All of us, what we don't realize is that our childhood ideas can still cloud our judgment because they play out in the end. If you haven't made peace with your experience will continue to play out and continue to look like bodies. But if you want to put an end to all of that, you have to understand what it is you're seeing. See, almost everybody is seeing the exact same universal experience, but everyone is defining it differently. And that's what makes their individual experiences. But at the end of the day, if you want to identify your patterns, your self-concepts, take advantage of the look behind you. Go back through your mental Rolodex, expand your view. I want you to remember, when you look into a mirror, you're looking face forward, but what you see is the reflection behind you. Okay, this is very important. You're looking straight into a mirror, you see yourself, but if you really expand your view, you can see behind you. You're not actually seeing through the mirror, you're seeing behind the mirror. Okay? This is true on Earth as well. Earth is nothing more than a giant mirror. And so what you're doing is seeing behind you. So take advantage of the step backwards, review your life, okay? Determine where the patterns are, because you will always be the only common denominator in the equation. And from there, you can determine what areas of life you need to work on, where your self-concept might fall short, where it may need some work, where what beliefs, what core beliefs, because a lot of times people will say this, I don't even know where to start. I have no idea where to start. I know I've got to work on stuff, but I'm not quite sure what I believe. Well, in those moments, take a moment to look around you. Look outside, because it does serve a purpose. It's still a mirror. It's still a reflective surface showing you a snapshot of what you used to believe. And if you take a moment to look backwards and go through your memories, you can identify the places where you've behaved and thought a certain way. And those are the things that if you really wish to work on, you can. But the clues are all around you. And what I want you guys to understand is people represent these beliefs. That is all that they are. And they are serving you whether you like the belief or not. They are serving you. They may show up as the most painful lesson you've ever had in your life, okay? But you owe this person a huge debt of gratitude, because if you inherited a pattern as a child and you don't want it to plague you through, well into your 80s, then someone who shows up as a painful lesson just served you, stopped you in your tracks, and made you wake up, made you stop playing the recording. So in a way, even the most painful lessons are actually helping you. But at all times, what I want you to start doing is learning how to see beyond the illusion of bodies. I want you to see what everybody's seeing. Yes, you will see bodies, but I want you to take a deeper perspective, the perspective that turns inward and looks at it from this perspective inward, so that you can understand that you are the light source that casts the shadow outside of you, and everything outside of you is your shadow. The shadow is not at fault. It is not evil. It is not anything. It is simply representing a conglomerate group of memories that you are not identifying with being in the moment. A simple slide perception, another point view of perception in space-time, okay? And when people show up, what they're doing is they're helping you see inside of yourself. So if you have that perspective, that inward perspective, it is way different, because now you're not trying to separate yourself. You know that meme, like, I'm struggling between wanting to beat people up and spiritually evolve, that meme, as cute as that is, you can't do both, right? You can't want to beat people up and spiritually evolve. Why? Because the people that you want to beat up are your characters, are your bodies. You would be doing it to yourself. And that's the most important thing to remember, is become present to that voice. Someone cuts you off in traffic, as tempting as it is to be like, beep, beep, asshole, right? That moment, as tempting as that moment is, I want you to understand that you didn't call anyone else an asshole but yourself. And how many times have you accidentally maybe cut someone off, or intentionally, it could have unintentionally happened. So you were due for your own repercussion at some point. At some point, it's got to happen to you, but you're still the asshole, right? 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 So watch what you're saying. Watch how you're interacting, because these are the things. This inner voice is determining the quality of your life. It's determining how every character plays in your world, how everyone shows up, and a lot of you may notice that you lucked out on certain parts and certain relationships and certain things, and you really lucked out. Well, that's because you have a good self-concept when it comes to relationships, but maybe not so good at work, or maybe not so good at... So these are things that we can learn just by looking outside. But always, when you look outside from the perception that you are the light casting the shadow. The shadow outside is you. It will always be you. And if you want that kind of mojo where people just show up, where you're just kind of manifesting anyone and everything you have to understand that that world is only happening in here. And if to the degree that you are able to control your brain, the rest of your world falls in line. But the most important thing you can ever do is become present to what you're saying. What is your ego saying? Are you going to attach to that or not? A lot of times you'd be so surprised if you didn't listen to the ego's likes or dislikes and simply dealt with what's in front of you, right? So like, say for example, you bought a piece of land, okay? And suddenly someone shows up and they're like, I'd like to put a yoga studio down right there, in your land. And like, your voice goes, I don't want that, you know? Just as an example, right? If you listen to that voice, you miss out on opportunity, okay? Because if you don't attach to that voice and you simply say yes like God does to everything, okay? You imitate God in this particular instance, right? Since the vortex is working in your favor anyway. What could end up happening is it could become the most coolest yoga place in the world. The land could be worth millions, and it ended up being the best decision you ever made, but you didn't want to initially do that. And you didn't want to initially do that because that's your ego saying, I know better. I know better. And when your I know better gets in your own way, you will limit your own life. And so this is what I'm talking about, surrendering a little bit. Trusting, not always paying attention, dealing with the things that are in front of you, but learn to practice the surrender experiment, because you would be surprised at how much the universe is working in your favor, at how often the universe is working in your favor. But you have to, like, I don't know how many different ways to Sunday that I can say the same thing. Like, I almost want to pull out my hair. Watch and mind your story. Watch and mind your story. Because I'm telling you, every single human being will appear as you say they are. It is easier for certain people to manifest people all the time or to never worry when these people are quite fully aware that they are everything at once. So then they're not reacting to something separately. They talk differently. They speak differently. They interact differently. They don't need company at all. Do you catch what I'm saying? We don't need it at all because the entire universe is happening in our head, okay? Now, what happens when we don't need anything? Everything is drawn. Every man, every woman, every child, every pet, every business opportunity, everything is drawn. The vibe is not needy. So, of course, what happens? People want to be around that. People want to be around that. They crave it. They're drawn to it. They want to help you out. They step in and they love that. Why? Because you understand that you're everything, so you don't need anything. So now what happens? Now, without need, without any lonely vibe, without anything, people just appear, want to hang out, and you get to do what? Enjoy your experience. See, I don't want to bypass 3D. I want us to live in 3D. But what I want us to do is live the best possible 3D life we can have. And the only way that's going to happen is if we come off of autopilot and we start listening to this inner voice, because I'm telling you, I can't begin to say it. I don't know how many different ways to Sunday. I know I keep repeating myself, but I'm telling you, that inner voice is responsible for every single detail and every facet of your life, okay? As an example, yesterday as I was walking, you know, got my weights on and I've got my little vest on and I'm walking, right? And I'm walking, and it was so funny because the street corner that I was on was called Observation Way, okay? So observe this way. And I was on Royal Lane, and I just like Royalty Lane or something like that. And I just laughed because here's the most interesting thing about this path, right? I've never walked this path before, but it looked just like a path that I had walked on when I was in North Carolina. It looked just like it. And I was like, of course it looks like this to me, because it's really not actually there. It's just taking my memories and making them appear to me a certain way. And everything outside of me is nothing but memories. Even the place where I'm staying right now has components in it that remind me of when I was 5 years old. Okay? So as an example, when I was 5 years old, I lived on the 3rd floor and there was these green carpeted stairs. And I know that's kind of normal, green carpeted stairs or whatever. However, I'm on the 3rd floor and I always have to walk up green carpeted stairs. Now, do they look different? Yes, because we're talking 40 years ago, right? But I know that my reality is made out of my memories. Nothing outside of me doesn't appear a certain way based on memories alone. And that is it. I mean, when you get so good, you can break down every tiny little second and millisecond down to a science and be like, this is happening because of this, this, and this. You know, take advantage of your ability to take a step back and look backwards. Okay? If you ever find yourself stuck in a certain situation, take advantage of that ability. Think back through your mental Rolodex and think, where at this point did I deviate from what I wanted? What choice did I make that was different that ended me up here? Because remember this, okay? Your reality is like a choose your own adventure book, okay? Everything's already written in the book. All the scripts since the beginning of time, since the Big Bang, have all been written out. There is nothing new under the sun. Your state determines all the other predetermined actions. So then your state is the only thing that's the most important thing to manage, because everything else falls into alignment. A lot of people, you know, they find Neville and they think they found everything, and they get away from Abraham Hicks and they say Abraham Hicks was antiquated. Okay, once you understand Neville, you actually say, oh, wait a minute. She's saying the same thing as Neville. She's saying manage your state and the rest of it shows up. She was saying the exact same thing I'm saying to you. So it's not antiquated at all. It's just now, from a level of mastery, you can actually see how this actually happens. Okay? So that's what I want to give you guys as a tip today. Whenever you get stuck in a certain situation, go through your mental Rolodex. Expand your view, okay? You can always expand your view backwards, all right? And backwards actually leads forward. I know that sounds confusing. Okay? I'm trying to help you guys because I don't see people anymore a lot of times. I see little translucent lights, and I apologize for this, okay? I used to have someone who would cut his hair, and he's so handsome, and he would look, you know, so beautiful all the time. And I just see a big translucent pillar of light. So he would get so upset I didn't notice the haircut. Well, I don't see a haircut. I see a big translucent pillar of light. I see very different. You know, I see the way people see when they've taken shrooms, ayahuasca, or any other hallucinogen, right? Except I haven't taken them. This is just how my eye sees. And this eye I trust more than these two. Okay, this one sees everything. This one is very limited to what it can see in front of its face, which is just shadows. Okay? So, again, take advantage of your ability to see, because whatever is happening in front of you has occurred because of choices you've made behind you. So at any point in time you get stuck, take advantage of that, step backwards and look back through your mental Rolodex and think, where did this go this way and how? And you can expand the view as far back as you want. You can go back to your 5-year-old memories, 20-year-old memories, 10-year-old memories, 5-year-old memories, year-old memories, 2 months, 3 months. It doesn't matter how far back you need to see to determine why you are where you are, but it will help you. Because again, remember, the concept is when you look in front of the mirror, so when you look outside of you, it's a universal mirror, you're actually seeing behind you. And that is true in life. That is true in life. By the time something is solid, like this, you know, flesh and solid and knock on wood and, you know, that kind of thing, by the time it is solid and outside of you, I don't care if it's 30 seconds ago, it's still the past. It's still the past. By the time it's solidified, it's still the past. The way that it works is it's created up here. This is heaven. It's created up here, okay? Then your heart registers it as real. That's why the emotions and the mental pictures must go together, okay? Then your heart registers it as real, and then your brain reproduces it, okay? One of the things I'm going to be teaching in the course, the very first lessons, are about heart-brain coherence. And the reason that I want to talk about heart-brain coherence is because at the end of the day, your heart is your brain's seeing eye dog. Your brain has two seeing eye dogs, all right? The first seeing eye dog is these eyes, okay? They're helpful for what's in front of you, what you're dealing with in the moment, but they are not the best seeing eye dog. If anything, they are blind. They're just as blind as your brain, okay? You know your eyes don't actually see, right? They don't actually see anything in front of them, okay? What your eyes are seeing is a bunch of synaptic things that your brain has reproduced inside of it so that it can look like it's outside of you. But it's just your brain, okay? I assure you I know this because, like I said, my son, before he died, was blind after that part of his brain was ruined, okay? It was damaged. So therefore, he could not see, and your eyes are exactly made in that way. You cannot see either, okay? So you've got a sort of walking stick, you can call that you can see in front of you. That's what I would call these eyes, okay? That's it. But your heart, on the other hand, sees it all. It has billions of sensory neurites. It has billions of sensory neurites that are connected to your gut and connected to your brain and connected up and down. Central being astral world and down being the material plane. So everything above it and below it, it's right there in the middle. So it's able to see much further. And that will never lead you wrong. Your voice, though, and what you can see with these eyes and the voice inside your head can misdirect you, okay? That's why it's important to consciously choose to connect your heart with your mind, and to consciously choose to follow your intuition, and to consciously choose to activate your other abilities, okay? Because your sense of smell, your sense of hearing, your sense of sight, your sense of touch, and everything else that falls in between is nothing more than a shadow of a much larger, more connected network that is completely ESP trained, that is telepathically connected to everything, that can see and hear beyond, can smell beyond, can do so much more than we are capable of registering if we don't know that that ability is there, I guess is what I want to say. All right? So if you know that those abilities are there, how do you turn them on? You turn them on by activating your heart sense. You have to activate your heart sense because this is the only thing that actually knows the way. Okay? And the way won't always make sense, but it doesn't matter. You just deal with what's in front of you and you allow your heart's intuition to guide you. This is the best seeing eye dog you'll ever have. So when it comes to manifesting, at the end of the day, the bottom line is, where are you in your self-concept? What do you truly believe about yourself? In case you're confused, you can look around you and people will show up and tell you what you believe about yourself, right? But if you're not, and you take a moment to really go back down memory lane, you can break down your self-concept, you can see what you need to work on, all of this, or you can find a coach that can help you do this, but they're just gonna take you back through, all right, where's your story? Because that's what I do, right? I read your story, okay? And then you guys proceed to tell me some story, and a lot of times you're kind of like, okay, I don't want to repeat this story, I'm trying to end it, but for purposes of telling you what's going on, I'm going to share my story, right? In that few minutes, I see exactly what's going on, okay? So I want to explain what it is that I'm seeing. So while you guys are audibly telling me this story, my brain is forming the pictures, So her whole life is before me, okay? And in those moments, I can break it down. Okay, here's what the shadow's doing. Here's what you did as the light. Here's the cause and effect. 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 And it's so easy. But it's because I understand at the bottom or the end of the day, the bottom line is, as long as you can reverse that view inward, everything else makes sense. Cause and effect makes sense. We've fallen asleep on autopilot for a long time based on the fact that we didn't understand the consequences of cause and effect. So it was necessary. It was a necessary part of our growth. But I think we are reaching the point in our evolution where we're done with that. We're done with that. We're done with suffering. We're done with the darkness. We're done with having a childhood memory repeat in every single relationship. We've gotten to the point where we realize, oh my God, we've been on autopilot and repeat for a long time. I want off of this trajectory. I don't want to be on this hamster wheel anymore. And so these are ways in which you can actually do the self-examination required to get you free. You know, a lot of times that's what I do with you guys. I'm just going to go right back through how far back down memory lane do we need to go to figure out why this happened, you know? But I want you to remember the design, okay? The ego is going to tell you about guilt out there, which is non-existent because it's a dream. However, that is going to be placed outwardly, okay? And if any point in time you're facing outwardly without the understanding that everything is you, you are going to fall in line with the script, and the script's going to run on autopilot for you, and you can go through the exercise if you want. It's called experience for a reason, and it is helpful, and everyone goes through it, and everyone should value these experiences, not regret them, okay? However, for those of us that are done repeating things and are ready to get off the hamster wheel, okay, if that's the case, then it's important to really take stock of what you've been doing, because the same type of thinking that you've always done is not going to get you off the hamster wheel, right? It's just not going to work, you know? And so if you're feeling victim to your imagination, it's time to stop. Pay attention to what you're saying to yourself. Get really clear on the self-concept. If I can be of service, please reach out to me and let me know, okay? I don't mind doing these things, but really, truly, all I'm doing is taking you back through memory lane so we can identify where this belief built up, okay? And the fun thing, and what makes me truly different from all other coaches, I guess, is this. I have yet to meet someone, no matter where they are in the globe, who has come to me that I can't relate to their experience. I've been through it. So it doesn't matter whether they're coming to me about an SP, whether they're coming to me for a health issue, whether they're coming to me for some type of reassurance, whether they're coming to me over some self-concept, over some childhood trauma, of whatever it is, it has been already my life. And the reason that is because once I was able to see through the Holy Spirit's eyes, I understood universal experience, and as one, I took my place in universal experience. So now universal experience just makes perfect sense to me. I'm sitting in the center. So that's what I help people do. I help people find their center and help them see how you are everyone, because it's really, really, really obvious. Marla's asking, where do toxic relationships fit in? Toxic relationships really are with ourselves. The only toxic relationship we will ever have is with ourselves, and everything else is a reflection of that. So they only exist with ourselves. You see, if someone is really madly in love with themselves, they're not going to tolerate a toxic relationship. It's just not going to happen. They love each other. They love themselves too much. So they put up the boundary and they teach the shadow how to treat them. Otherwise, cut out. That's the consequence of their lesson. So this person will go on in his imaginary way and will learn their lesson. But this person that loves themselves didn't suffer at all. They never let that in. It's like an impenetrable force, right? Okay? But at the end of the day, the only thing that is mirroring back in a toxic relationship is our own self-hatred. And so when someone shows up who's toxic, what you really need to do is, first of all, stop defining them as toxic, because you're actually doing that to yourself. And then second, break it down. What is it that they're showing you about yourself? And where are you hating? Because I promise you, we need those people out there, because we're too afraid to face it in ourselves. And so we end up really grateful to the people that come in and play the roles for us. But at the end of the day, the only toxicity, the only fights, arguments, whatever you want to call that, are happening in here. And until we face that, we are not going to understand why people appear the way that they do. As soon as we face that, we understand why people appear the way that they do. We understand what it is that we're doing, because at the end of the day, it's always you, with you, with you, with you, with you. God cannot be divided, ever. You can't either. There's only one of us, and everyone else is playing in the dream. And everybody gets their own point of perception, but we're all characters in God's dream. And that's all that we're doing. And so when we live and die, supposedly, right? We live and die, we just simply take up a new point of perception. That's it. A new point of perception, a new point of perception, a new point of perception. And we do this on autopilot until we're done examining every single aspect of life that we could possibly be. And so since this is infinite, we've been aliens, we've been what we consider to be aliens, right? We've been everything in the illusion. We've been every person, almost 8 billion people on Earth, okay? We've been all 8 billion people. We've also been all the people that happened before then, after then, everything since the Big Bang is you. Since the Big Bang. In fact, we are the reason that the Big Bang actually occurred. Yeah. From the second you decided, oh, I wonder what it'd be like to separate from Eden. We had an illusion and the Big Bang, and then we created an Earth, and then we've lived in that illusion ever since. It's just an illusion, but since we have the ability to create worlds like God, that's exactly what happens. So now we're just participating in the dream. That's it. Okay? The only way to heal is non-duality. It's non-duality. Because I'll be honest with you, here's the thing. Although you're supposed to enjoy your experiences, and although you can show up differently, if you don't know you are running on autopilot, then we are still asleep, and we're still believing what's out there as being a solid and fixed reality. Okay? This is where God says, if you don't believe that I am He, you will die in your sins. Right? So in that particular case, what he's saying is, if you don't realize your imagination is the source of your eternal life, you will live as you believe. That's what it means to die in your sins. Because in that moment, you will live in that localized thought projection that is your beliefs made real. But you have the ability to come in and out of states all the time. But the only way we heal these things, the only way we get in and out, the way we figure out the box, and that's really all that we're here to do, is figure out the box. Why are we standing here at this precise moment, for what and why, right? And have fun in that game. But the only way that we do that is by turning our attention back inward towards ourself as first cause. When we do that, we have a totally different point of perception. Totally different point of perception. Now the rest of the world has no idea that you know the design. So they're just going to appear as they appear, but one of us does. Okay? And the minute that you do, everyone else can go with you. But you have to understand you're the source projection. If you don't realize that, you will not see that change. You will only see where you've localized with your physical eyes a partial perception of a space point in time where you've just, I call it focalize, which is not really a word, but it's where you focused and localized your attention to freeze time. That's all that you're seeing, okay? But time is nothing more than another imaginary construct in your mind that you actually relate, sorry guys, that you actually relate experiences to. So think of it like that, okay? And try to remember that at the end of the day, manifestation is easy if you remember that you are the whole universe at once. It changes everything. If you remember that every interaction is with yourself and no one else. And if you need help breaking down self-concepts, take advantage of the step backwards. Look back and determine the patterns. Take an honest look without condemnation, without rejection, without self-hatred, without resentment, and without pity. Just write it down if you need to look at these things. And then fill in the blanks and live from there, because the experiences were there to show you what needed to be filled in. But since you have everything already, you have these abilities. Okay? So I hope this helps. It's a trick. It's a trick, but it's a trick that helps you understand why your reality is the way that it is. As I said, there are no mysteries ever. You can break it down precisely as to why things happen. So if you ever get lost, do what I'm saying. Take advantage, look backwards. That will help you determine why things are the way that they are. And you can expand, you can even revise in your mind, make a new choice, live from there, wake up from that point of view, and then the reality will instantly be altered. Okay? You do not, and I repeat this, you do not have to live as if it's Groundhog Day. All right? You do not. Every day is a fresh opportunity to start a new direction, not dwell on what happened 3 months ago. New opportunity. All right? If we feel like we're living in Groundhog Day, we're doing it wrong. Our brain has no more script. So get busy on working on something else to experience. You can consciously choose to step off the hamster wheel. And it's very empowering when you do. When you become present to that story, because that story is everything. It is determining the quality of your life and the way that people appear outside of you. All right. I hope that helps. It's impromptu. I hope to see you guys this coming Saturday and every Saturday thereafter, except for New Year's. I'm gonna party a little bit. And but I'm hoping these tips are helping you get behind the veil, because at the end of the day, you are the veil. You. And the shadow that you cast and the thoughts that you're believing and the things that you are casting in your outside world, you are the source of what you think separates you from another human being. It's not actually separate. It's all one and the same thing, expressing as many. We're just all playing characters in the dream. Okay? All right, so hope that helps. Also, don't forget, if you're going to try and manifest specific people, it definitely behooves you to work on your self-concept beforehand. Otherwise, you'll be sadly disappointed by scraps. Don't accept scraps. And keep at it, you guys. I hope this was helpful. Think about what I'm saying to you. Always remember to look backwards, just long enough to see where you're headed forward. Because the past is creating your present moment, and your thoughts right now will create your next moment. So become present to that. I can't stress the importance enough of self-inquiry. I just can't, because that's really what helps you determine the quality of your life. And when you become present to that, and you're really like, whoa, am I really saying that all the time? Am I really judging these things all the time? It helps you see it, and you're like, oh, that's why this is appearing that way. I said that that's how it's appearing. I said it inside my head. Oh. Okay? So, self-inquiry, you guys. You'd be surprised. Self-inquiry can actually bring you back your lover faster because your attention is on you, where it should be, and not externally focused. So now what's the shadow going to do? It's going to take its cue from the source, and it's going to look your way because you're looking this way. The shadow must do what you do. Common sense. Okay? And by no means do I mean to imply that the shadow is any less important, because they are one and the same being. Masculine and feminine expressions of the same whole being that create one whole image. And they're all equally as important. Everything is serving you. Everything. And once you get to know that, and you start trusting that, everything else just shows up. Way better way to live. Trust me on this one. Okay? Struggle, not a necessary thing. Yeah? All right, you guys. Don't want to talk forever. Obviously, you guys gotta enjoy your night, and it's almost Christmas. So I hope you guys are having good holidays, and I will try and talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.